Greetings, travelers. I'm your host, the C-Dot that knows a lot, Dr. Waluigi. As a kid, my family didn't really own that many video games or the consoles that came with them, unless we got them for Christmas or we ended up buying them when we each got our own jobs. However, one of the positives that we did have was having many friends who would bring their consoles over to our house or on camping trips. I bring this up because one of our family friends introduced us to the original PlayStation, and it's here where I discovered my favorite video game on the console, the classic 3D platformer Spyro the Dragon. Developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony, the original Spyro the Dragon was the second game made by Insomniac and was the game that put them on the map, which has led Insomniac into becoming one of the biggest names in gaming as they've created two of the most popular PlayStation gaming franchises with the Ratchet & Clank and Spider-Man series, just to name a few. But it all started with this little purple dragon gaining multiple sequels, of varying quality, reboots, and a remake compilation of the first three games. Like I said, my family never had any of the classic consoles like the NES, SNES, etc., so for most of my youth, my brothers and I were stuck with sharing our games between our three Game Boy Color consoles, or we had to go to our friends' houses / hope that they would bring their consoles whenever they came over, or in my case, come with us on a planned camping trip. Since then, I have sought out and have collected the first game and the Reignited trilogy, because Spyro was the first 3D game I ever played, and I always wanted to finish playing it. I guess you could say that this was the game that started my retro collection, and it was also the game that made me a fan of the PlayStation consoles. The game follows a young dragon named Spyro, voiced by Tom Kenny. That's right, the voice of SpongeBob voiced Spyro. Hell yeah. Who goes on a quest to free all of his dragon brethren after they mock an evil Nork named Nasty who turns them all into crystal statues. Can Spyro save the world of the dragons, or will he also be trapped under Nasty's spell? Despite the game being 26 years old, God, I'm old, the game's presentation still holds up to this day. Even with the remake of the first game, which did improve some of the level designs and enemies, it still doesn't compare to the 90s charming fantasy-like world that the original game created. In the game, you travel to the 5 different worlds in the Dragonlands and complete different tasks within each of those separate worlds, which are each inhabited by similar-looking types of dragons: the Artisans, the Peacekeepers, the Magic Crafters, the Beast Makers, and finally the Dreamweavers. I will say that compared to other games that came out at the time, the worlds aren't that unique in design, as they are boiled down to a forest area, a desert area, a swamp area, etc. But what does make them stand out, at least compared to the PS1 version, is how Saturday morning cartoon-esque the characters look. Unlike something like Boogerman, where its presentation was a very dated 90s gross-out style that I don't think would appeal to a modern audience, Spyro, on the other hand, has a relaxing 90s Saturday morning cartoon style, with the worlds having softer colors, and the music I find having a relaxing and mellow feeling that makes it nice to waste time and wander around these different worlds. I feel like this is what people think of when talking about their favorite comfort games. Certain games where you can just pick it up and get lost in the world and just wander around when you've had a bad day or don't want to put in the effort of paying attention. Which is what I do when I don't want to play a game where you have to pay attention and just want to relax. With a game like this, and the time period it came out, the gameplay is obviously very simple. You control Spyro with the left analog stick, exploring each of the worlds to find all of your dragon friends and release them from their crystallized prison. Along the way, you will have to face each of Nasty Nork's minions using the different dragon powers you acquire, such as double jumping, flame spitting, and being able to glide. The other goals throughout the game are to collect gems, which basically just gives you a high score, and to rescue some dragon eggs from some of Nasty's thieves. These aren't that important, as the goal of the game is just to beat Nasty's minions and Nasty himself. Hell, all you get from completing the game is being able to go to a secret area where you can collect even more gems. Overall, the gameplay is very similar to games like Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, and is another good example of that genre, where you just wander around these large worlds and collect things, which I approve of. Though I do understand if some people don't really care for this type of game in this modern age, but there is a clear resurgence of these games for those of us who want to relive them without paying an arm and a leg. I think looking back on this game, it definitely shows where I got my love for collectathons. The game is still beautiful to look at and has one of the few memorable soundtracks that I like listening to when playing this game. I don't really have that many negatives to talk about because most of the negatives are either nitpicks or have been fixed thanks to the reignited version. Which, thanks to that version, has gotten more people interested in checking out Spyro and his many adventures, as well as the Insane Trilogy for Crash Bandicoot, which did lead to an amazing fourth game reboot, so who knows, maybe Spyro will get the same treatment. Right? And if for whatever reason you haven't checked out the game, I say you should, as it's a very fun and relaxing game that leads to 2 really good sequels. Overall, I give the original Spyro the Dragon a 10 out of 10. It's a game that I go back to not just for the adventure, but the experience of when I played it as a kid, and it's one that others I think will enjoy just as much as I do. Thanks for watching, I'm Dr. Waluigi, and remember, don't judge a book by its cover, cause you'll never know what's inside. Good night, everyone.